Spoke with David Dollar of the Brookings Institution. He's a senior fellow at the John L. Thornton China Center there. I asked him how the virus might impact small and medium-sized enterprises, also referred to as SMEs.
The big firms will suffer a little bit, but they can easily weather this. I think a lot of small and medium enterprises in China are really having a problem. Tsinghua University and Peking University did a survey of 1,000 SMEs, and about a third of them said they could only last a month with their current cash flow. So obviously economic activity is very depressed. If that drags on for much more than another month, then you start going to have bankruptcies and closures, people laid off. So I think it's quite a serious issue for SMEs.
Yeah, UBS economists expect the pandemic to drag global growth near negative levels in the first quarter. So this has a ripple effect beyond China as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've been surprised that Western stock markets have held up so well, because hopefully it'll just be one quarter, but probably we're going to have a very bad quarter, first quarter of 2020 globally, and China, you might have a negative quarter. The key thing is getting the virus under control and keeping the economy from cratering, and then China will bounce back quickly. But there's still quite a bit of uncertainty about that.
And David, you were talking about these projections about bankruptcies. We had a piece on last night where people were going door to door in Wuhan, checking on these people under quarantine. And one woman, just a sense of alarm in her voice, she said she needed to get back to work. The business was suffering. That's another piece of this. I mean, if the business goes away, so does livelihoods for a lot of these people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why a critical question is, will SMEs be laying off a lot of people? They've been resisting it so far. The government has encouraged firms not to lay off people. I think you've got a lot of good sort of social attitudes in China, not laying off people. But if this drags on for more than about another month, then you start having a situation where SMEs do not have the cash flow to pay people. So whether they call them employees or not, once they stop paying people, that's going to have a very serious spillover effect on other parts of the economy.
And project things out for us. I mean, when you look at Apple and what's going on there, I mean, they do a lot of business during the Lunar New Year. People are traveling, they're consuming, they're going out, buying these products, and obviously that was curtailed. And then you've got the factories. You can't have workers because they're under quarantine. So it's kind of a double whammy for Apple, but I suspect that's the same for small and medium businesses as well.
Well, I would distinguish between your export-oriented manufacturing, like Apple's a good example. Historically, that kind of firm has bounced back pretty quickly. Once the virus is under control, those factories can run triple shift. Some Chinese people will hold off on buying a new smartphone while this is happening, but later in the year they'll come back and they'll buy that new smartphone. I think the same thing with autos. I worry more about some of these service sectors. During the Spring Festival, Chinese people go out to restaurants and movies. They go on vacation. A lot of people have canceled that. They probably will not reschedule that later in the year. That's just going to be a lot of lost activity, and that's where you get a lot of SMEs, is in restaurants, hotels, and some of the service sectors. So I think that's more worrisome about that bouncing back.
So long term, if you were to give advice to some of these smaller, medium enterprises, how can they position themselves to survive all of this?
You know, in general, you want to see firms grow in size and diversify a little bit if they have the expertise, maybe diversify geographically, but almost by definition, that's hard for SMEs. They have poor access to credit. They face a lot of constraints. So the things that big firms can do to diversify and protect themselves, it's a lot harder for SMEs to do those things.
David, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for your analysis.
Great to talk to you.